Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha. I'm a freelance makeup artist based in London, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new setting sprays by Danessa Myricks. So if you'd like to see how these perform on an oily skin type, please continue watching. So Danessa Myricks is launching two new setting sprays, and these are going to be available on her website at the end of April. That's the tentative date for launch, but keep an eye out for these. But since I'm part of the Danessa Myricks Angels program, I did receive these in PR for testing. So let's test these out. In terms of packaging, they are very, very similar. Both have a beautiful, sleek container. And I love that this has only 100 ml of product. When I say that, because a lot of setting sprays can sometimes have 130 or 150, so slightly more than 100. And it is a pain when I try and travel with it. So this is great that this comes in with a 100 ml standard packaging. Has a plastic cap right there and has a really nice nozzle. When I come to the application portion, you can see how fine the mist is. This is what it looks like. On the outside, it does say it's the Set It Forever Mist. It's an oil controlled setting spray, which is fantastic because I do have very oily skin. And it also has something called temperature control technology. I don't have much information about this, but I'm assuming this is but I feel like this is a way of keeping the makeup on, irrespective of how hot or humid the weather gets. So I think that's what they mean by temperature control technology, but we'll have to see. So I did receive a little pamphlet, so I'm just going to read off some of the claims of the Set It setting spray. So the Set It Forever is a lightweight setting spray, and it has an anti-shine formula. So that's exciting, especially for somebody with combination to oily skin types. So it's designed with temperature control technology, powered by key ingredient Sepi-Matte 5, which is made up of tiny sponge-like spheres to absorb excess sebum and leave your skin with a smooth matte finish. That sounds fantastic. It's infused with aloe leaf extract to help retain moisture and to keep skin feeling cool and refreshed. Now it's been about 15-20 minutes since I've tested or applied both the setting sprays. On my right side is the Set It one, the mattifying one. And I don't feel particularly hot on either side of my face. It is relatively cold here in London. I believe the temperature outside is about 5 degrees Celsius or so. But indoors, obviously, it's warm, so it's kept at around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. So the setting spray also claims to lock in makeup for up to 16 hours, even in extreme heat. So that's a tall claim, and I am really curious to see how it fares on my skin today, even though it's relatively cold outdoors. But it is warm or pleasant indoors. But irrespective of that, my skin definitely still gets oily, especially my T-zone, even though it's winter. So it's slightly more of a combination skin type for me at the moment. But definitely going into summer, it's going to be oily all over. So very curious to try it, especially when the weather changes. So you can layer this over or under the makeup for a smooth and natural matte finish. So today I haven't used it under, I've just applied it as a setting spray on top. So that's something I will test it in the future, that I will try it for both prep steps and also for the setting step. Both the setting sprays are cruelty-free, vegan, oil-free, paraben-free. They are long wearing and they both have the temperature control technology. The second setting spray that Danessa Myricks is launching is the Dewy Forever Mist. Again, very similar packaging to the other one, but as you can see, the coloring for the names is different. This has a more of a blue kind of color. This is more of a purple color. Now, reading off the claims of this one, just on the container, it says it's a hydrating setting spray. So I think this will be great for someone with a dry to a normal skin type. And it also has a hyaluronic hydrating complex. So again, sounds like a very nice hydrating, moisturizing kind of a setting spray. So again, reading off the claims on the pamphlet. It's ultra hydrating formula that locks in makeup while keeping you feeling refreshed with the hyaluronic hydrating complex. Now during the demo as well, I did feel a difference when I was applying the two. This side, which has the dewy setting spray, definitely felt more cool and like more watery. The setting spray felt like it was sitting on the skin longer than this half of my face. So that's potentially the hyaluronic hydrating complex. It's infused with nourishing ingredients like hyaluronic acid and cucumber extract that work to hydrate and soothe the skin from environmental stresses. Sounds great. And it keeps skin cool while retaining moisture. I think that'll be really good for dry to normal skin types. It's also heat and humidity resistant. So that's interesting that it is moisturizing or hydrating, yet it is heat and humidity resistant. That's interesting. Unfortunately, I do not have the pricing of the product at the moment, but once it's launched, I will update my description box below, so be sure to check that out. So now that we've looked at the claims of the setting sprays, let's move on to the demo. So on my left side, I'm going to be using the Dewy setting spray. And on my right side, I'm going to be using the Set It spray, which is more of a mattifying setting spray. So what I'm going to do is take a tissue, cover one half of my face, and then do the application. Now I haven't used the sprays before, so I'm just going to get them primed so that there is product at the nozzle. Okay, so the mist is really fine. Maybe if I put it next to my, there you can see that. Yeah, so that is the Set It. I'm also going to prime the Dewy one. The Dewy one smells really good, but let's get on. So my right side will have the matte setting spray. Sorry, it got really bright, so I had to turn down the exposure on the camera. So while this is drying, let's do the other side. So the Dewy spray will be on this half. This one definitely feels more wet, if that makes sense. The other one was much more fine. And this one smells really good, very floral, but it's very mild scent. Just going to let these dry. So while this is drying, I'm just going to quickly tell you what I had as my base. So I had my regular moisturizer and serum underneath and sunscreen. And then I went in with the Smooth Effects Primer, just because I have an oily skin type. So that's by Danessa Myricks as well. Followed by the Vision Cream Cover Foundation. This is also by Danessa Myricks. And the two shades that I mixed were the TY01, which is the Yellow Adjuster, and the TO01, which is the Olive Adjuster. So that gives me my foundation shade, and I use TY01 on its own just to brighten the center of my face. And then I set everything in place with the Danessa Myricks Evolution Powder in the shade 01, which is translucent, and I applied that with a brush. At this stage, I don't think there is a clear difference between the two sides, so if I come up close, I feel like there's equal amount of shine on either side of my nose. So this half had the Dewy setting spray. And this half got the Set It Forever Mist, which is the matte version, which temperature control features. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but at this stage I really can't tell a difference between the two setting sprays. But there was a little bit of difference when I was applying it. I felt like the matte one, the Set It one, had just a more finer mist, and it didn't feel like it was sitting on the skin for too long, like it was evaporating quicker, I would say, compared to the Dewy one. This just felt a little bit more wet on the skin, and with this one I could smell a little bit of a floral fragrance. Very pleasant, nothing annoying, but I felt like you should know that. So I'll come back for a check-in in a few hours, and we'll see if there's a difference between the two sides. I'm especially curious to see what happens to the right half of my face, which is probably the setting spray I would pick, which is the Set It one, just because I have oily to combination skin. It's a bit cold here in London at the moment, so I think I'm slightly more combination, but my T-zone is still very oily. So I've applied the setting spray around 10:45 to 11 a.m. So I will come back in a few hours to show you how both the setting sprays are performing on my skin. So it's been about 5 hours since I've applied the setting spray, and as you can see, the oil is coming through, especially through my T-zone. So as I move my face from left to right, hopefully you can tell on camera as well that this side, which received the Dewy Forever Mist, is a lot more oily than my right side. Especially you can tell a difference right here. Hopefully it is translating on camera as well. So I did check back in earlier as well, just in my mirror at around the 2 to 3 hour mark. And the differences were not as obvious, but I did have a feeling that this side was slightly more oily than this side, especially around my nose. But now at the 5 hour mark, I can definitely see that even my cheeks, this side which has the dewy finish the setting spray is definitely more glowy, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is use some blotting sheets on each half of my face, and we'll see if there's a difference in the amount of oil coming through on that. And then we'll also do a transfer test. So the one I'm using is by Bosch. This is their black charcoal blotting sheets. I'm going to use one for the left side of my face and one for the right. First want to compare the foreheads. So let's do about there. So there you go. And then let's see the right side. There you go. I would say these look comparable. Let's do the chin. Again, I think that is comparable as well. I'm going to take 2 more sheets just so we can tell a difference for the cheek and the nose area. Let's do the back of the cheek, like that. Then let's do the side. Okay, I really don't think I can tell a difference between the two. Okay, just going to fold these in half. Then let's get on closer to the nose. And let's compare that portion of the sheet. So this is the dewy side, this is the other half. I don't really think there is much difference in terms of oil control between the two sides of my face. In person, yes, I could tell that this side was more shiny. And then just to remove the oil on the nose, I don't think I can really separate the two sides. I'm just going to use one of these blotting sheets just to see the finish and also the center portion, which I didn't blot earlier. Now, on the blotting sheets, I really cannot see any transfer, but I do want to test it on white sheet. So I'm just going to grab that. Okay, so just cut a piece of tissue into 2, and I'm going to press it all over my right side. Let's see, I don't see much, if any, product coming onto the tissue, which is a good sign. And then using a new one for this half of my face. Again, the same kind of situation. I don't see any makeup coming off on the tissue. And if there is, that possibly is very marginal. So that's really good about the setting spray, that there is minimal transfer onto the sheets. But I am going to head out in a bit to walk my dog, so I will be wearing a face mask. So I can show you then if there is any transfer onto the mask. I'm assuming there will be, especially on my nose, which is always transferring onto my mask. And this area, whichever area is tight against my skin, those areas tend to transfer. But again, we'll test these setting sprays out and see how they fare against a face mask. But before I go, I'll just come quickly close to the camera so you can have a final look at how the skin is looking post-blotting. Again, this is 5 hours after the application of the setting spray and about 6.5 hours since I've had the foundation on. So again, this is the side which had the dewy setting spray. All the makeup looks intact. I did not use any face highlighter on purpose just because I didn't want it to influence with the oil production on my skin and what you see on camera. And this is the half which had the set it or the mattifying finishing spray. I personally think that the makeup looks lovely and looks freshly applied. All I needed was a quick blot and it looks like it is freshly applied. The only thing I've touched up is my lipstick after lunch, but everything else was as is. So I'll see you guys back at the end of the day. So it's been about 8.5 hours since I first applied the setting spray. This is what my skin looks like. So if I come up close, I feel like, again, the dewy side is a little bit more oily than the other side. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So again, this is the side which had the dewy setting spray. And this is the side which has the matte setting spray. So at this stage, I feel like the performance is still the same between the two, just that the dewy side is marginally more oily looking than the other side. So what I'm going to do is blot off all the excess oil from my face, and then I'm going to head out for a walk, and I'm going to be wearing an N95 mask so we can tell if there's transfer of makeup. So there you go. Everything is still intact. That's what I'm very impressed with the setting sprays. Both the dewy and the matte actually have held up the makeup beautifully. It looks freshly applied. My blush is still on. You can see my contour, bronzer, everything is on. My foundation, concealer, everything is pretty much on. So I'm going to be putting on the mask and then I'll check back in maybe about 40-45 minutes. So it'll be a little over 9 hours since I first put on the setting spray. And I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is, since today I've just used it as a setting spray, tomorrow I'm going to be using it both in the prep stage. So I might add it before foundation, maybe after foundation, and then again at the end as a setting spray to lock in the blush and everything else on my face. And I'll do the same set of comparisons. So dewy on this side and the matte one on this side. And I'll come back tomorrow to give you my final thoughts on these setting sprays. But I'll just come up close so you can see how my skin looks. So this is 8.5 hours after applying the setting spray and about 9.5 hours to 10 hours since first applying my makeup. So this side had the dewy setting spray. And then this side got the matte setting spray, or the Set It Forever Mist. It's a brand new mask. Just want to show you guys that it is starting off clean. And we are losing daylight right now, so in case it gets dark, I will be using the indoor lighting, but you should be able to see if there's any transfer on the mask. There you go. So as I was saying, I'm not going to be using any kind of a separator just because I feel like when I do that, I don't get enough setting spray on the center of my face. So even if there's some overlap, that's fine. We're going to be judging it mostly on how it's faring on the outer portion of the face, because that's where most of the mask is coming in contact with the skin, if that makes sense. So starting with the dewy on the left side of my face, giving it a good mix. Okay, on my right side, the Set It spray. For the foundation, just to be consistent with the day one review, I'm going to be using the Danessa Myricks Vision Cream Cover. I'm going to be using the same shades. I think I used TY01 with T Olive 01. So I've just applied a light layer of foundation all over, and this is what my skin looks like. Still quite fresh, dewy, and natural looking. So I'm going to again apply a layer of the two setting sprays on both halves of my face. So the dewy setting spray. So I'll let this dry and then complete the rest of my makeup, and I'll come back to show you the last stage, which is spraying this as the last step of my makeup, so using it as an actual setting spray. So I've just finished my base makeup and I've set the entire face with powder. Now I'll do my eye makeup off camera later once I've set my face and also change my lip color. but my entire base makeup is done. So again, just going in with the two setting sprays on the two halves. Okay, so let's have a look at the skin. The side which has the dewy setting spray, quite a natural dewy kind of a finish on the skin. Let's look at the other side. I think it's slightly marginally a little bit more matte compared to the other side. Doesn't have as much sheen or shine on this half. So it's 11:30 a.m. here, and I'll come back in a few hours to show you how the skin is faring, and we'll do a blood test just like we did for day one, and then come back at the end of the day where I'll show you how much of transfer occurs when I wear a face mask. So it's been a little over 5.5 hours since I last checked in with you guys, and this is what my skin looks like. Now again, this half has the dewy setting spray and this half has the matte one. In person, I can definitely tell that this cheek is more matte compared to the side of my face, if you can see that. Although comparing my T-zone, I think they're equally oily in both halves. So if I get closer, sorry that it's gone very, very gloomy suddenly, so this is the natural light that's remaining. So I will probably have to turn on the studio lighting in a bit. But hopefully it translates on camera as well. This cheek is definitely matte compared to this cheek. And in case you're curious about the eye makeup, this is part of the 3 Looks 1 palette using the Viseart Soleil La Plage palette. So that should be coming up soon. So let's do the blot test. In terms of the oil, even though the finish was more matte on this side, I feel like they're pretty similar. And I'll just use them to blot the center of my face. And once I blot, the skin does return to a matte finish. So if I come in closer, all my makeup is still very much intact, both on the dewy side and the matte setting spray side. So I'll come back before going out to walk Cooper, which will be around the 8-hour mark, and then show you guys how much is the transfer onto the mask. So this is how my face is looking 8.5 hours since applying the makeup. Again, dewy side and matte side. On both sides, I feel like the makeup is still very much on, just that my T-zone is quite oily. So before I wear the face mask, I'm just going to quickly blot my face. So once I blot again, my face is back to the matte stage and all the makeup seems to be on. The only thing I've touched up is my lipstick after every meal because it's not a very long wearing formula. So this is what I have on, which is the Lip Mix by MAC. So that does transfer every time I eat. But other than that, there's been no makeup reapplication or touch-up other than blotting. So again, it's time for the mask test. So I'm going to be walking my dog in a couple of minutes. So this is the face mask I'm starting off with. It's absolutely clean, as you can tell. And I'll be back maybe in about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on how the weather permits. And I'll show you guys how much has transferred. But again, consider that this is at 8.5 hours since I've applied the makeup and the setting spray. This is how it fits my face. So it's quite snugly fit. So it's touching this portion of my makeup and around here. So it's cutting through the blush, contour, and my foundation. Same on the nose, it cuts through here. And then along here, it's cutting through the contour and some foundation, I guess. So I'm just back from my walk, and it's probably around 9 hours since I first applied the makeup, a little over 9 hours. Let's get this mask off. And as with last time, there is some transfer of makeup. I'll just reduce my brightness so you can have a better look. Can you see there is some transfer of the foundation on the sides and also around where the nose touches the mask? But I still kept the mask from the time where I didn't have any setting spray. So in comparison, you can see that it's pretty obvious that the setting spray definitely helps in keeping the makeup onto the skin for much longer. Obviously, the transfer is going to be more if I'm wearing it for the whole day, but you get an idea. It's definitely going to be better than days where I don't wear a setting spray. So in conclusion, I am really impressed with both these setting sprays. They seem to have equal longevity in terms of how it holds on the skin. And I don't think there's an obvious difference for when I used it just as a setting spray versus when I used it as a primer after my foundation and then lastly as a setting spray at the end. So I would probably save on the setting spray and just use it at the end of the makeup application. Maybe combine it with maybe primer application at the starting. But both of these performed really well in terms of longevity on the skin, and not to prevent, but to actually delay the makeup transfer onto surfaces such as masks, if that makes sense. And I would assume that if we get back to the days where we are no longer wearing masks, these would be perfect to keep them intact all day long. As you saw that, even though my T-zone got oily, when I blotted, there was absolutely no transfer on the blotting sheets. And also that the skin gets back to the matte finish and it looks like I've freshly applied makeup. Even now I have all my makeup intact, even though the straps of the mask went through my cheek. It's just that there's an indentation there. The makeup is still very much on that area. So I would definitely recommend these two setting sprays. If you prefer more of a dewy finish and have more of a drier skin type, I would recommend the dewy one. But for me, I think the setted one definitely wins because I am combination in winter and full on oily in the summer months. So this is going to be my best friend. And I did find out the pricing for you guys. So each of these retail for $26. I'll also try and put the UK pricing on the screen right now. But I hope this review was helpful to you guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and also consider subscribing for more videos. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!